Welcome to this deep dive into Arabic philosophy. We've got some really interesting excerpts here from a book by Ahmed Fouad Elwani, translated by Cherif Badia Oldain Kora. And we are very excited to kind of dig into this with you.
Me too. Elwani's book is really considered a foundational text on the subject, and I think the excerpts that we have offer a great kind of jumping off point.
Yeah, and so instead of just reading it like a book report, what is our goal for this deep dive today?
Well, I think our mission today is threefold. We really want to, one, grasp Elwani's main argument when it comes to Arabic philosophy. Two, we want to understand the context in which these ideas emerged. And then three, how can we connect these maybe seemingly ancient philosophies to our lives in the 21st century?
I love it. Okay, let's unpack this. Right away, Elwani dives into this evolution of philosophical thought. And he's kind of pushing back against this idea that Arabic philosophers were just copying the Greeks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's arguing that Arabic philosophers, they weren't passively imitating, but they were actively engaging with Greek thought. They were building upon it. They were questioning assumptions, and they were adding their own unique perspectives.
So it's like they're having this conversation with these ancient Greek thinkers across time and cultures and adding their own thoughts and interpretations to the mix.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Elwani uses this really vivid analogy of a torch being passed from one civilization to another, and each civilization as its own fuel, so to speak, which changes the flame's intensity, its color, even though that original spark might have come from somewhere else.
That's such a powerful image. It speaks to this interconnectedness of knowledge, but also highlights those unique contributions of each culture and each era. So how does he go about demonstrating this originality? What's his approach?
He really emphasizes the importance of understanding the context in which these philosophical ideas arose. So it's not just about what these thinkers said, but why they said it. What were the social, the political, the religious factors that were influencing their thinking? What questions were they grappling with?
It's like understanding the backstory. The motivations behind the ideas helps us grasp their true significance.
Precisely. And to give you a concrete example, Elwani points out that some Arabic philosophers were actually criticized in their own time for being too immersed in Greek thought.
Oh, interesting. So even back then, there were debates about intellectual influences and originality.
Exactly. What's fascinating is that even those critics recognized the value of these philosophers' contributions. They saw that these thinkers were reinterpreting and expanding upon those Greek ideas in new and insightful ways. They were taking them, making them their own.
So even with the critique, there was an acknowledgement that they were adding something new to the conversation. Okay, so we've got Arabic philosophy as this active dialogue with Greek thought, not just this blind imitation. But what were some of the specific arguments or topics that these Arabic philosophers were engaging with? Did the excerpt mention any names or kind of dive into specific examples?
That's a great question. It would be really insightful to see those specific examples of how they took those Greek ideas and really made them their own. Did the excerpt get into that level of detail? You know, unfortunately, the excerpt itself doesn't name specific philosophers or really get into those granular details, but Elwani does hint at this broader debate that was kind of raging among Arabic philosophers at the time.
Oh, what's that?
It kind of echoes those earlier Greek discussions we were talking about.
Okay.
It's about the nature of the soul.
Of course. Always a hot topic.
Right. Some Arabic philosophers, influenced by Aristotle, saw the soul as this thing that was deeply intertwined with the body, almost like two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
Others, leaning more towards Plato, viewed the soul as this separate, immortal essence capable of existing independently from the physical body.
Wow. So they were grappling with some seriously big questions about life, death, what it means to be human. And those are questions that still resonate with us today.
Exactly. And it's that timeless quality that makes studying philosophy so fascinating. Even though these debates happened centuries ago, they still offer really valuable insights into the human condition.
It's like they're asking those fundamental questions that we all grapple with, regardless of, when or where we live.
Yeah.
And those different perspectives can still challenge our assumptions and push our own thinking. So how does Elwani suggest we as modern readers should approach these philosophical ideas from the past? How do we make them relevant to our lives today?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Elwani argues that by engaging with these diverse philosophical traditions, we can gain this richer, more nuanced understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It's about broadening our perspectives, right? Not just accepting one viewpoint as the absolute truth, but being open to all these different ways of thinking.
Precisely. He uses this phrase that I found really thought-provoking. He says, "To philosophize is to learn to see the world anew."
Ooh, I love that. It's about challenging our assumptions, questioning what we think we know, and just being open to new ways of understanding reality. It sounds like he's encouraging us to be like active participants in this ongoing philosophical conversation, even today.
Absolutely. And he even suggests that by engaging with these ideas from the past, we can gain this fresh perspective on the challenges that we're facing today.
Can you give me an example of how that might work in practice? How could understanding these ancient debates about the soul, for instance, be relevant to our modern world?
Sure. Let's take a very timely example that we're all thinking about. Artificial intelligence. It's rapidly changing the world around us. There's a lot of debate about its ethical implications. Some people view AI through this purely utilitarian lens. Its value lies in its usefulness, its ability to perform tasks more efficiently than humans.
It's all about those practical applications. What can AI do for us? How can it make our lives, easier or more productive?
Exactly. But Alawani, drawing upon those ancient philosophical debates, might urge us to consider a different perspective. Remember those discussions about the soul and its relationship to the body. What happens if AI starts to blur the lines between human and machine? What happens if AI starts to exhibit qualities that we typically associate with consciousness or even a soul?
That is a mind-blowing thought. Suddenly, those ancient debates about the nature of being take on a whole new urgency. It's not just this abstract philosophical question anymore. It's a question with real-world implications for how we understand ourselves and our place in the universe.
Precisely. And it highlights the power of philosophy to help us navigate these complex, rapidly changing times.
It's like he's giving us a new set of lenses through which to view the world, a set of lenses that have been shaped and refined by centuries of philosophical inquiry.
Exactly. And those lenses can help us to see things in a new light, to ask deeper questions, and to approach challenges with, I think, greater wisdom and insight.
Okay, so I have to ask, did reading Alawani change your own perspective on Arabic philosophy? Did it challenge any of your assumptions? It's always fascinating to me how even experts in a field can have those moments of discovery and have their perspectives shifted. It just goes to show that learning is a lifelong journey.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the power of books like Alawani's to challenge our assumptions and open our minds up to new possibilities. For me, it wasn't just about specific philosophers or arguments. It was this reminder that the history of ideas is messy. It's interconnected, and each culture, each era is adding its own unique voice to the conversation.
It's like piecing together this giant, intricate puzzle with each philosophical tradition contributing a unique piece to the bigger picture.
Precisely. And sometimes we don't even realize we're missing certain pieces until we encounter a work like Alawani's that encourages us to look beyond our usual frame of reference.
So to bring it all home, is there a final thought, a sort of takeaway nugget, as we call it on the show, that you want to leave our listener with today?
Definitely, Alawani's focus on the dialogue between Greek and Arabic thought got me thinking. He's arguing for this recognition of the often overlooked contributions of Arabic philosophers, but then it made me realize that there are probably even more voices that we're missing in our understanding of philosophy.
See, here's where it gets really interesting. It's like he's opened a door, but it leads to a whole universe of other doors we haven't even looked at.
Exactly. We often focus so much on the Western philosophical tradition that we kind of forget about the incredibly rich traditions of thought in other parts of the world. Yeah.
What about the contributions of Eastern philosophy, African philosophy, indigenous philosophies? How have these traditions grappled with those big questions of existence, morality, and knowledge?
It's a reminder that philosophy is not confined to one specific culture or geographical location. It's a universal human endeavor, this quest to understand ourselves and the world around us. And by exploring those diverse perspectives, we can gain a much richer, more complete understanding of the human experience.
Precisely. So if I can leave our listener with one final thought, it would be this. Don't be afraid to venture beyond the familiar. Seek out those underrepresented voices, those philosophical traditions that might challenge your assumptions and really broaden your understanding of what philosophy can be. That's a fantastic note to end on. Your deep dive into Arabic philosophy, courtesy of Ahmed Fouad Alawani, is officially complete. We hope this has sparked your curiosity and maybe even inspired you to do some philosophical exploring of your own. Thanks for joining us.